We're here at the Digital Hollywood Conference at the Lowe's Santa Monica in Santa Monica, California. As you can see, people are just moving in. It's a little before 1 p.m. on Monday, the 27th of March. We're talking to Ken Rutkowski from Ken Radio, who has just finished chairing a very important panel, and now he's going to tell us what happened, so that watching this before the tape of the panel, you'll be able to know what to look for. Go ahead, please.
So obviously what we were focusing on is all around MTV, mobile television, and content around the mobile phone. And the panel really focused on the idea of content coming from anywhere. It could be directly from the brand or from the carrier. And when broadband proliferates on the mobile device, where we call it 3G or enhanced broadband, then we'll see really the take-up to the next level. But we talked about the idea of where money's being generated. MTV, ABC, they were there talking about their content and how they're exploiting the tools and services of mobile carriers. But let's be realistic. Right now, I think the panel will show where it's going to go. Everyone's talking about how things are going to be in the future, and I think we're starting to see a glimpse of it. I think Mobi TV is probably the best case of all the companies you see on the panel, where they're actually streaming multiple channels. They're even doing audio, being music just music channels, just music by itself. They're probably the best solution right now, but I have a feeling a year from today, this panel we'll see more players, more people doing this, and a lot more money generated in this environment.
Okay, one of the terms of art that's used that people ought to know what it is on deck and off deck. Tell people what on deck and off deck is.
So on deck means you actually work with the carrier, being here in the United States, Verizon or Sprint. You work with them directly and you share revenue there, but they place you in a prominent location on their deck. So when you turn on the phone, there you are. Off deck means the user finds the content. That could be through links, through websites, through emails, but the brand is big enough where somebody would want to go find it, or they're inspired to find it, so they're not working with the carriers directly.
How does that relate to a walled garden, and how does it relate to net neutrality as a general concept?
I think you faced it. It's perfect. A walled garden would be the carrier. The carrier creates the walled garden environment where they limit access to certain areas, where they work just with their partners, and then when you're off deck, you could do anything you want.
So it's outside the garden wall.
It is.
What's the CTIA you were asking everyone to scoop?
CTIA, there's multiple mobile conferences around the world. One's 3G, which happens in Europe. Another one's called 3G Congress in Hong Kong, and CTIA, which happens next week in Las Vegas. And that's where all the mobile carriers congregate to, and they make all their big announcements.
Okay, make an announcement about Ken Radio in the next 8 seconds.
KenRadio.com. Mobile entertainment technology news every single day.
Thanks.
Thank you. We're focusing on mobile today, so most of the panels are all focusing on the mobile space. My name is Ken Rutkowski. I'm the moderator. Actually, we're all the moderator. This is kind of a self-moderating environment, completely interactive, so if you have a question, comment, statement, anything like that, raise your hand, and please get that question in early in the panel. Don't wait to the end, really. So it's going to be any time you want. Again, raise your hand, question, comment, anything like that. We're going to meet our panelists. I'm going to ask each one of you to tell us a little about who you are, your company, and something that you're doing right now that is incredibly hot. Just hot. So I'm going to start. Looks like you're like the deer in the headlights right now. Tom, what do you got?
Okay. My name is Tom Paris, and I'm Senior Vice President of Business Development and Content for Mobile. It's a Seattle-based mobile content applications company. We are a games publisher. We are an interactive messaging vendor, known largely to a number of people in the industry as doing interactive television services for American Idol. And actually that relationship with Freeman, the producer of that show, led to
Go ahead.
We launched live television services on Sprint's network in November of 2003. And since then, we have grown to reach customers on pretty much all of the wireless networks in the U.S., Canada, large presence now in the UK and Japan, growing presence in South America. We've also expanded our service.
And I head up programming for MediaFlow USA. MediaFlow is a wholly owned subsidiary of Qualcomm. Qualcomm is building a nationwide network to deliver live TV and other media to the mobile devices. We're investing $800 million into this project, and the intent behind it is to take the load off of the voice network so that you can deliver high-quality content that's optimized for wireless delivery, addressing channel changing time and battery consumption and things like that. And we will deliver streaming content, clipped content, and data packages through a broadcast-type technology.
So you're basically giving us the vision of what it's going to be. How about the testing? Because you're supposed to roll it out this year.
That's right.
Where are you now?
The testing is going very well. We did announce in December that our launch partner will be Verizon. And so I guess the hot part of that is the room. When we lock ourselves up with Verizon, it gets pretty hot.
Does it?
In there, yeah. But it's going very well, and we're marching towards the intended fourth quarter launch date.
And when you say launch fourth quarter, does that mean nationwide launch, or is that just spotty here and there?
No, it'll be a nationwide launch, and nationwide being
3 cities.
lots of top markets. Now 30 top markets.
Okay, great. Mark?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Burkow with Palm. I'm going to use some point in the last 10 years have owned some Palm or Handspring product. Don't be shy. Okay.
No, ask them if they
That's
still
what's
own
hot.
it.
Sorry.
Ask them if they still own it.
You still well. Do you want to come in?
You don't know. Okay, Marty.
And how many of you still use or have used? Okay, great. So.
Oh, wait. Did you see that churn? Did you see that churn? Raise your hand again. Who uses it now? Okay, that's at least 20% of who had their hands up. Why don't you have a Palm anymore? Who doesn't have a Palm anymore? Why? What? Who said it?
Batteries run out.
The battery runs out. Sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
Idea for an accessory.
You got to plug it in.
That's why they have rechargeable batteries.
Yes.
And we ship with these little AC adapters. So the majority of our business now has transitioned to our smartphone business, the Trio line of products, which in the quarter that we announced last week, we sold close to 600,000 of. So the growth of the company really is really now behind the whole smartphone category. And as the business transitions over, that's really where our focus is. The first and foremost.
So my name is Jeremiah Zinn. MTV over the last 3 years has had a huge growth in taking our traditional programming and bringing that to mobile. So that's video via Sprint, Verizon's VCAS service, ringtones via all major carriers, wallpapers, ringbacks, direct-to-consumer applications. Every piece of programming that you can see on any of the MTV networks stations, you'll see in mobile today. So that includes MTV, VH1, Comedy Central, CMT, Spike, and Logo. What's hot? What's hot this week is spring break, and that's hot. And
What are you going to announce next week at CTIA?
Let's talk about spring break instead. There's too many.
CTIA, there's so many. Come on, just leave us one.
Look at all these old guys in the audience. They want to talk about spring break. Spring break this week, exclusive on all mobile video channels. We're taking, for the first time ever, our programming and doing exclusive pieces of that on mobile.
Okay.
And that's hotter than CTIA.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't wait for you to announce that next week at CTIA. Bruce?
Hi, I'm Bruce Gersh. I oversee the business development for the ABC Television Network and Touchstone Television. And let's start with what's hot. How many of you watch Grey's Anatomy?
Yes.
Oh my God. Desperate Housewives? Lost.
There you go.
There we go.
The Palm
Lost
users.
is hot. So just to give you a little highlight, I oversee all the transactional businesses that take place across the entertainment and the television studio. So mobile is one of many businesses that I oversee. Over the last few years, we've developed mobile product for Verizon, for some of the other aggregators, and we are continuously looking at how to develop more and more. What's hot today, besides our TV shows, is producers are really interested in the space, and now we are venturing down the road in creating originally produced product for mobile.
Now you know our panelists. Let's know who you are. Raise your hand if you're a content creator. You create content. Okay, content aggregator or distributor. No. All right, so we got an idea who's here. Let's first start with the whole idea of has this industry really changed? You talk about spring break, you're excited about that. Obviously, you have a lot of great content that's popping up. The iTunes phenomenon has really been elevated because of Desperate Housewives and the shows there. Moby TV, I got to see you in Europe a couple of years ago. It was really exciting. Back then it was like 3 frames a second, and now you're at about, what, 16, 18?
How about 30?
30, full frame. That's awesome. So things are going there. So has all that happened within the last year? Has the last year been a great year, or is it just kind of like it's continuing to wait for the next generation handset? It's continuing to wait with better licensing deals from the studios or the labels. What's going to take this industry to the next level? Mark?
Well, I mean, it first has to start with what we call a great user experience. And I think one of the challenges that this subject is faced with today is it's a fairly difficult process of identifying the content you want, paying for that content, getting that content loaded on your device, and having it actually a format that is usable. So I think one of the things that's going to help with that a lot is the over-the-air distribution. That's something we're very focused on. We think is very important. And with the availability of 3G networks, I think that's something that's going to help a lot next year.
It's not about 3G. It's about broadband, right, Mike?
Oh, broadband. Well, so we're just very focused on the wireless aspect.
Right. No, what I mean by broadband, because you don't want to call it 3G, right, Mike? Media flow is not. It's media flow.
Media flow is media flow. That's right.
And how are you going to break the mold? What are you going to do that's going to be so different, since you've been able to watch all the carriers and what they've been doing? Obviously, you're working with Verizon or Singular. What are you going to do that's going to be so different than what everybody else is doing?
Well, certainly the carriers are waiting for the demand, and the demand is waiting for the carriers. So there's a bit of that vicious cycle going on right now. But you will open up your phone and watch what is most relevant because you have the access at that time. And so there's going to be a significant value proposition around, is this important enough to me to pay for right now, or can I wait till I get home for it? And so what falls in that relevance factor around access, and so the oh my God factor will be, you will open your phone and watch the game. It's extremely relevant in the last couple of weeks of the March Madness. How many games did you miss because you couldn't get it, and now there will be a solution for that.
By the way, media flow, does that require special chips inside the phone?
It absolutely
So there's a situation where you have to populate the market with those handsets to do that.
That's correct.
So right now, a lot of your content will only be able to be seen by a small group.
It'll be 0, and then 1, and then 2, and then that's right. But with the marketing might that Verizon for sure is going to put behind this thing, it's going to be a very, very big initiative for them in 07.
But Moby TV, it's handsets. If you could get broadband in any way, you could get Moby TV, or have you partnered specifically with only certain carriers?
Well, I think our strategy has been a little bit different than investing in or betting in any one particular infrastructure technology. In fact, if we found anything, today there are probably 5 or 6 candidates to deliver very high quality, what we're calling broadband experiences to
only be fair to.
Yeah, agreed. And so I think between media flow, I think excellent technology, some of the DVBH capabilities here and abroad in Europe, DMB and DAB in Asia predominantly, but also here in Germany and other places. Some of the in-band multicast technologies, companies like Roundbox.
Can you make business being off deck?
Well, I mean, there's no opportunity to offer video off deck in the United States today. So it's all about on deck, and it's a real business for us, back to the question before. I mean, as a content provider, we drive millions of views every month for mobile video, and we've released a small portion of our portfolio to mobile. As interfaces get better, as the opportunity to create playlists roll out, as the integration between different parts of the mobile phone become better, so you can, from the top screen, choose MTV as your favorite, choose Spring Break as your favorite, click on that and go directly into the channel, we're going to see much more usage.
So content's the king, right?
Well, content is one part of the value chain, and
but you would have to say that. You're coming from a content provider.
We think that's what's driving people to purchase these services, right? Nobody's driving a service because they say, wow, DVBH sounds really fun.
Yeah, but distribution aggregation, I mean, you have to have that then too, right?
Via the carriers, yeah.
Right, the carriers. Now, a lot of people, anyone here working off deck with any carriers where you're distributing content? Stand up, sir. What's your name and what company? What do you mean no? You can't. You raised your hand and now you're not going to. You don't want any carrier to know you're doing it off deck. Okay.
Is the terminology off deck mean that it's not a major distributor like Google Video, or in this case, if you like MobiTV.
How do you guys want to define off-deck?
The way I would define off-deck is that you don't have a direct carriage relationship and revenue share agreement with the carrier. But if there's an open device, like say a Palm Trail or a Pocket PC, which would allow you to go to any internet site or download media independently, you can go, as long as you have a data service subscription, you can get to it. So that's off-deck. Does it appear outside the carrier sanction?
And then the revenue's actually now, you don't split it with a carrier.
Can't you just stream the 3GP technology from just anywhere? And as long as they have a broadband connection, they can download QuickTime or Windows Media Player.
You're shaking your head no.
No, I mean the handsets are locked down. Carriers subsidize handsets, and they're the ones who decide what video service goes on which phone. So today, that's the way it works in the States. It doesn't work that way in Europe, and we see in our business in Europe, we actually do see a lot of direct-to-consumer video happening there. That's much more a la carte focused, and a la carte focused, in our experience in Europe, has been a harder sell to consumers. People want to buy cable like they are buying, as an example, their cable package. So I guess I got to say that video hasn't been a big a la carte business for us, direct to consumer. But for ringtones and wallpapers, that's starting to pick up. But that's not the point of this.
What's Sundance doing?
Sundance is on-deck distribution of video.
Because you need that traction, right? You need that relationship.
Yeah, and videos are a complex, rich media environment, and carriers are extremely protective, particularly with this new medium, to ensure that user experience is right. So for Verizon, for example, has a completely different delivery environment than, say, a Sprint, which is a distributed environment where people like ourselves and MobiTV would serve the video separately. In Verizon, they do it all within their complex. So with ringtones and graphics, for example, it has blossomed in the last year where you can buy that on websites, in print advertisements, television advertising. And video will get there too, but the carriers are just being a little reticent to allow that to go into.
Well, because it's still they get a lion's share of the revenue. Let's face it, the carriers.
Well, remember they'll get a lion's share of it, no matter where it's distributed.
Well, but let's talk. I know we'll get to you in a moment. But ABC, you have you have content that people are seeking because it's making news. You're cutting it down so it's not just an hour long or half hour long. People want Desperate Housewives. Apparently, you have a game coming out now too. I just saw a board game. You don't. You could be on deck or off deck. You have the brand name, same thing with MTV, to drive the traffic. So, are you off deck and on deck, or are you just all on deck with the carriers? And
domestically, we're all on deck. As we look into the international space, just like we heard over here, we're definitely looking at the off deck opportunity. But as we look at partners and selection of partners, there's a variety of different criteria that we put into place. One of the big pieces where, if you go back to the Apple relationship, why it worked so brilliantly was the marketing behind it. And granted, our brands drove the adoption, but at the same time, there was their marketing that drove our brands. So we look at this as a circular relationship with our partners. So whether it's Verizon's VCast service and them running a billboard on our air, there's a lot of different variables that play into not only just looking at on deck, off deck. There's other pieces to the puzzle that we're putting into that.
Do you mind if I call you Dr. Phil?
That's fine, but don't ask for any psychiatric advice. I think there are two things.
What to get that? Since you're a hardware company, devices, and you have an amazing device, fast processor, it's much better than a standard handset. How do you start taking advantage of the space that you've grabbed, because you have a good space, and utilizing the device you have to protect some multimedia? Do you do partner relationship with content directly, or do you still have to be slave to the networks?
Well, today we're slave to the networks.
Yeah,
that's an admission that I'm happy to make. And by the way, I'm not sure I feel very bad about it. I think the whole on-deck, off-deck discussion is an interesting academic one. I think it's interesting that while we don't bundle any true content,
yes.
These lines of our products, it turns out that we're actually the highest ARPU product anywhere in the carrier lineup. Anyway, there. So carriers can sell all the services and all the stuff they want, but what's really driving usage, both voice and data usage, and it's higher functionality that's doing that. So if you take that to the next logical step, is there an opportunity to now take the right kinds of content, entertainment, video, audio, whatever, and take advantage of the functionality that's on here, and that's absolutely the direction that we're going. The carriers are our partners.
Everybody wants that ubiquitous device that's all self-contained. We've heard the rumors of the iPhone, which we haven't seen. We've seen fake pictures. You, in theory, have it. I mean, you can we don't have a hard drive in there yet. Next step.
Yeah, well, I think you'll start seeing more of that. I think you will see us reaching out to a broader audience. Frankly, that's one of the reasons why we did the deal with Microsoft for the Windows Mobile platform. Windows Mobile just provides a better content and overall media experience for the phone. And so,
how'd you feel about that when you saw the Trio 700W? Did you just go, "Oh no"?
You know, I'm the guy who got myself in trouble with the press last week. This is actually my second instance with the company. In my life with the company previous, I was the guy who actually did all the Palm OS licensing and got the platform up. And I came back to the company about a year ago and got quoted, managed to get myself quoted last week in some trade journal that I was in shock and horror to see our relationship with Microsoft. But very quickly came to learn, which is true by the way, I actually was pretty shocked when I came back. But the truth there is you know, this is about growing the market, expanding the market, and providing certain kinds of application capabilities, such as what we're talking about right now, which is better done with the Windows platform. So why not do it?
What do you have running on yours? Do you have a 63
this is right here is actually 700.
It's 700.
Wants, yeah.
How's the battery life on that? I heard it kind of.
Battery life is actually, of all the things I've heard, battery life actually hasn't been one of them. So
what's the other thing you heard that's pretty bad?
I can't believe I didn't see that one coming. I've been dodging what's going on at CTIA next week.
Yes, well. I mean, how can you enhance that product?
I think the opportunity to enhance this product, again, it goes back to the question you asked me at the beginning here, is how can we create a better end-to-end delivery solution for media that allows somebody to do what everybody's favorite example does with iPod. When you open up the box, you plug it in, and boom, it's all happening. The store's there, the distribution's there, the playback's there. Mm-hmm. It's all there, and I think that whole end capability. And as I mentioned before, we think the big thing for from our seat is going to be the over-the-air delivery of this. Of the content, and I think that's a big opportunity for us.
So, Mike,
expect to see that.
Mike, you get to sit back, like I said, watch what's happening.
At a certain age, it's very intimidating to get a device and figure it out. And am I going to download a wallpaper, get into ringtones and things like that? We are finding in the research thus far that for any demographic, it's quite easy to flip open the device, press a button, and watch video that's coming in live. I mean, that is being received very well. So that the research around that then goes to, can this kind of leapfrog all of that so that this targets a really broad demographic around, my mother, my father.
How do you do that?
Open that.
Give me the answer. How do you do that?
There'll be a flow button on the device. Jump right in, and there's
you go right to a screen.
MTV running live on your phone.
You guys did a deal with them?
No.
What's going on? Why didn't you do a deal with them? Because you want to see it happen, right?
We had to announce something at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe at CTIA? Trying. Just want to get us something before next week. Come on, some of you guys, just give me something.
And then that integration is very close with the carrier. In the case of VCast, there will be a wonderful blend of video on demand, music on demand, and live streaming.
Dr. Phil, I love that. Really, if you can go out there and define...
We're also beginning to probe mechanisms for interactivity. In fact, we did a campaign over the holidays with Jeep, where we had the standard 30-second commercial spot in the regular television broadcast feed that we managed and we inserted. And as you're watching it, if you happen to be interested in the Jeep ad, you can click over to a hidden channel, a longer form channel, which they program with more entertaining Jeep content. I don't know if you've heard of the Muds. It's about this family with they're always covered with mud because they're off-roading all the time. And so we not only did we have the ads, we could track who watched it, we could track how many clicked over onto the advanced channels, and we could track how long they watched the advanced channels. So we had tremendous response. People watching the advanced channel for more than 2, 3, 5 minutes, and Jeep was thrilled. So we're seeing that interactive capability is a great mechanism, not just to do ads that are more relevant, but to boost the CPMs for everyone involved.
Can you do me a favor, stand up, say your name and your company and your question?
Victor Konevsky, Coding Technologies. Download I mean, to be able to advertise and load on any of these devices, either audio or video content. So let's say, like, I make a video and I want to be able to just like go in front of an audience and say, okay, guys, dial 777 # and you have my video and you have my audio.
Anyone have that? We should get a carrier here.
Nasu, stop it. We're a shortcode enabler, SMS aggregator, and if you want to make the minimum financial commitments in the business to do it, you're free to do that today.
And in fact, we're working with a wide variety of content providers who are willing to bear the marginal financial cost of putting up some servers to support their channel. We're kind of unique in that we don't have any scalability issues with the addition of multiple channels. So I think that this is one of the real benefits of being able to exercise that long tail of content. And it's true, in the early days, the carriers have asked us to concentrate on some of the big brands that will drive the biggest subscription uptake. But we're seeing a lot of the channels that we program hitting more niche audiences, giving each niche something that they want is very, very powerful. And so we've been working very hard on ways to access
It would be interesting. Harry, what's the name of your band?
Cosmic Crusader, Harry Perry Band.
Harry Perry Band, Cosmic?
We'll just call it Harry Perry Band.
Got it, Harry Perry Band. Brand it yourself. Wouldn't it be great if there's a way you could send a link in an email to all of his fans, and they click it and automatically uploads to the phone? Does that exist? Can you do that really easy?
It does.
That's awesome. Does he have to pay for that to get that done?
It depends on the mechanism. For us, he would have to pay for us. Part of it depends on how much his brand will drive subscriber acquisition. In the early days, before he has distribution and can command a major audience uptick that will give the carriers and ourselves a financial return, we would have to come to find some financial.
So there's no YouTube out there yet where there's user-generated content areas for mobile devices or portals like that, right?
There is in Europe, though.
There is in Europe. Again, we're behind Europe.
Obviously, if you want to put it up in Europe, there's Vodafone has done it already, and it's doing remarkably well.
There's a study that came out last week. It was called MTV, Mobile Television, pardon the expression, and it was all around the studies that are being conducted. Ted Cohen's here, everyone. Hey, Ted. Good to see you, Ted. Thank you. Oh, was he? Okay. It's actually interesting. As you look in the back of the room, we have a bunch of label guys. There's Ted Cohen, there's Rupert Perry, all these label guys who want to stay in the back. And I'll probably ask them to come to the front later on because we want to go after some label questions when it comes to mobile devices. Finland and the UK did a whole trial of mobile content. And it was primarily television content, clips, TV, sports. And they found that, one, the Finns consumed a lot, but they didn't want to pay. The Spaniards, they paid, but they didn't stay on a long time. But it seemed like in the UK, because of commute and people sitting in buses and trains, they stuck on the content the longest. So if we're going from a mentality of European or Asian where they're commuting constantly, that's where revenues are generated. Here, we're not a commuting country like that. We might sit in the car, but we can't watch a phone. So we're really designing a different paradigm here, right? Because we can't really follow what's going on in Europe. We could take some hints. Yeah, come on, it's a walled garden, Ted. Thanks, Ted.
I'll be on at 2:30.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You have a question, sir?
Yes, I'm Mark.
Here, let's.
Yeah. I'm Mark Strassman with Etopia Media. We're an off-deck producer, and I'd like to ask you to ask them, if you could. It seems like what we've created in this on-deck, off-deck issue is net neutrality in the wireless space, and the question of whether the big corporate producers will have the monopoly of the access to the customer, or whether small producers such as Etopia Media can put it up on a server, put it on Google, put it on VO, and have people go through the broadband internet to that space, watch it with commercials we put on, no commercials. Could you ask everybody about that?
Do I need to ask you? You heard it, right?
I want to jump in on that one. We do a lot of work with independent producers and do a lot of work with aggregators. And we do that because we don't develop 100% of our programming. And that's the way it's always been. I mean, if you guys are in Hollywood, you understand that. Good example of that is we recently had an acquisition of iFilm. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that site. And we have a new show that we've produced. I think it launched about 3 or 4 months ago. Yeah, around then, called Web Junk 20. Has anybody seen the show? It's an awesome
collage
show.
of
It's
top
basically
20.
from iFilm. We look at what are the funniest, most hilarious things on iFilm that people have submitted. And this is more focused on humor, but we're going to be doing the same with music, and we're going to be doing the same with arts. And the idea behind this is They submit clips to iFilm. We produce a half-an-hour TV show that changes every week based on those clips, with like sort of hosted pieces, and then we bring those down to mobile. And at the end of every mobile video, you see an offer for consumers to submit content via iFilm once again. So it's that whole circle.
But you're part of VCast. I mean, you're getting payment inside that subscription, so you're not just offering the content for free, right?
We're offering it just like if you subscribe to Time Warner, you're paying for cable. But the idea is that independent producers work through us to get distribution on mobile.
So it promotes the TV show.
Yeah.
It creates a social environment. Your community works together. That's good.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. We have a question right here. What is your name of your company?
Michael Kim with Microsoft.
With Microsoft?
Microsoft.
Okay.
I'm curious, as from an ABC and MTV perspective, have you guys thought of the MVNO route, and if not, why?
I'll jump in on the ABC side. Obviously, the Walt Disney Company is in the MVNO business. We just launched mobile ESPN, and we're embarking on a Disney MVNO as well. When it comes down to
who's handling both of those? Sprint?
I believe it's Sprint.
Okay.
When it comes down to a network MVNO, we're a broadcast network appealing to a much broader audience. So I think it would be really challenging for us to get into the MVNO business.
And iFilm and the spring break thing you were talking about, that's the same thing for Mark as well for ABC. How are advertisers getting on board? Are you having our advertisers on your spring break show? And then my second question would be, are you also seeing these advertisers trying to create their own branded content?
Take their own branded
content.
Directly to carriers, advertisers?
Or off deck? Direct or off deck?
Either way.
Either way.
Okay, so today most of our carrier partners aren't prepared to use advertising in the mobile channel or aren't prepared to advertise in the mobile channel. The idea is first to just get content out there and have consumers paying for those services. So right now there isn't, we're not creating spots for Tide, as part of our...
But I'll tell you, Procter & Gamble would like you to.
Sure. I mean, they speak to us all the time. So what we're doing today is working with carriers. So we do in-show integration. Spring Break is a great example of that, where we do work with Amped, where Amped has a truck down at Spring Break in Panama City right now, and they're recording exclusive segments with us for Spring Break. So as part of a carrier spend on our broadcast network, we're doing exclusive content with them.
But let's mention the advertiser side.
And we are actively clearing out that spectrum market by market right now. With every day that goes by, you would expect that process would get easier because there is a drop-dead date for that. So we certainly see that as extremely valuable property that we can exploit because we own that bandwidth. There will be additional bandwidth that will come up for auction, and who jumps in for that at what price is yet to be determined.
Ralph, come on. Management, monetization, and measurement. And this is one thing that we have. We move people to a certain portion inside a browser, being inside the user experience. We manage them by doing something, buying something, looking at something, viewing something, sending something. We monetize through, it could be subscription, and then of course we measure, which the phone has. That's something that Arbitron doesn't really have. They have no return path. They have no idea who's listening. Nielsen is a flawed mechanism when it comes to people meter. In theory, you have probably one of the most fine-tuned ways of doing true measurement. And that's what a lot of these advertisers want, is really who's listening, who's watching us, what kind of phone they have. You can do that. Why aren't you taking that to the next level? I mean, maybe